Good evening and welcome to the regular town council meeting, July 1st. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Phillips. Councilor Sims.
Present.
Councilor Willis.
Present.
Councilor Kusch.
Present.
Councilor Gagnon. Councilor Lavoie.
Present.
Councilor Siegel.
Present.
All right, we'll move on to the acceptance of the June 3rd regular town council meeting minutes and the June 3rd and June 17th special town council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Kusch. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? 6 yeas. All right, now we're going to move on to open public communications. This is a time for the public to come up and speak to the council about an item that is not on the agenda. So if anyone would like to speak, please come up, state your name. We'll give you 4 minutes.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I really came for the air conditioning. Bear with me. All set. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Charlie Hamblin, 26 Hamblin Drive, talking about the Gorham quarries today. Every day, ordinary people make decisions impacting their lives. Our individual decisions affect us alone. In contrast, decisions made by the government and elected officials have profound impact on the entire town, affecting everyone who lives here for an unknown number of future years, therefore creating history and a legacy. The town of Gorham's decision to approve 2 rock quarries near downtown, closely followed by an asphalt plant and commercial paving operation, with limited ordinances, regulations, or controls to measure the impact on neighbors, was wrong. Hindsight has taught us that. Criticizing that decision today does us no good. We live with it. However, we can learn from past mistakes and take actions to minimize the quarry's impact on neighbors today. The authority to make these improvements sits in this room. 2 immediate actions can be considered. 1, the town employees should improve their understanding of quarry operations by reviewing existing ordinances to ensure they are adequately monitored and meaningful while balancing the needs of quarry owners and town citizens. These should include, but not be limited to, a reclamation plan, dust emission monitoring, blast limitations, height and adequacy of existing berms, and additional needs. The town council should implement a temporary moratorium on new quarries and expansion of existing operations until such time as adequate regulations balancing neighbors' safety and health are in place. Leaving this to the next town council or hoping it goes away when I die is not morally correct. All Gorham citizens have the right to a healthy and safe environment. This is not the case today. Is this the legacy you choose? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? All right, seeing no one, we'll close open public communications and move on to councilor communications, and I will start on my left with Councilor Kusch.
Yes, I would just like to say Happy July and bring our attention to the governor's proclamation, which was forwarded to us today by Cindy Hazelton of the Rec Department. And the only part that I'll read is, as governor, I thank all those across our state who work to preserve our beautiful parks and provide recreational opportunities for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Willis?
Just a quick reminder that Summer Thursdays is underway up at Little Falls. Runs from June 26 to August 28 from 4 to 8 p.m. Entry's free, and if it looks like there's no parking, drive in and look around because staff does tend to park out on the main road on Gray Road there to leave spots open for more people. So hope to see you there on future Thursdays.
Thank you. Councilor Lavoie?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, as a member of the Open Space and Trails Master Plan Steering Committee, we had a recent open house where the public was able to come in and provide input. The results of that meeting are going to be shared at our next meeting, which is going to be on July 24th at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Counselor Sims?
Oh, I just wanted to thank the library and other departments and town staff for an excellent event. The spring into summer event, Public Works did a great job. Public Safety showcasing some of the vehicles, and it was a very well attended event. Almost 1,000 residents showed up, so that was very cool. And I believe even Councilor Kutch also volunteered, so thank you for that. But it was a really fun event, so it was a fun day to be in Gorham for sure. So that was good. Thank you all. Thank all the staff that made that happen.
Counselor Siegel?
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll first echo Councilor Sims's comments. The spring into summer event, of which I saw many other town councilors there. It was fantastic, and Chunk the Whale was quite awesome. I hear there were at least over 1,000 people in attendance. So that's just a fantastic job by everyone involved. I also want to say a thank you to the Friends of the Baxter Library for the new tables and chairs that are now in the kids section. They are much more dynamic, much more modular. They're going to be able to house a lot more people and move them around quite easily. So it's just an awesome addition. So thank you so much to the Friends. And then also congratulations to the organizers of Gorham Pride. I attended, as well as saw other counselors there as well. And it was an awesome event. It was put on, it was fantastic. I'm just really pleased with how it went, and I thought the organizers did awesome. So that's my congrats side. And then on the other side, I would like to remind people, if you are looking for things to do this summer, the Baxter Library has free tickets to the Children's Museum. You just have to tell them what specific day, as well as $5 tickets for the Maine Wildlife Park. And that's for any day. You just go to the library and they'll hand you a $5 ticket. We used that today. It was great. Highly suggest everyone check it out, especially if you have young kids. And then even the North Gorham Library, they have free tickets for the Coastal Maine Botanic Gardens. So if you're up for a drive up to Booth Bay, it is fantastic and, well, free for residents of Gorham. So I just thought I'd throw out that PSA.
Thank you. The only thing I have is a reminder that the Cherry Hill Farmers Market is on Wednesdays out in front of the Cherry Hill Trails next to Sebago Brewing on Main Street. It's every Wednesday from 2 to 6 through September. And I just want to thank our town manager's assistant, Jessica, for filling in and reading the agenda tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The council stolen half of my items, so appreciate that. Real quick, want to wish everyone a happy upcoming Independence Day, with a reminder that we do have a fireworks ordinance, and this time of year the complaints are steady throughout the town. A permit is required. You can get that online through the fire department's website. Just please be courteous of your neighbors. Work continues on Roby Park. Not a lot right this week. We had some electrical being done. It will look a lot better than just a big pile of dirt. We promise that. Completion should be done this fall. I want to thank Public Works. They've been doing a lot of random projects in town the last couple of weeks, including getting the high school tennis courts repaved. That should be wrapping up in the next month or two. And right now they're working on replacing the sidewalks at Village Elementary School, which they didn't plan on, that they're incorporating into their schedule. The town's currently advertising for its local business capital grant program up until July 1st. There's information on the town website. I believe you can get a matching grant total award up to $15,000. And we highly recommend that businesses that might be looking for an opportunity apply. Also, lastly, a reminder, the senior property tax program applications are due August 1st. It's a very popular program in town. If you meet income and valuation requirements and hit the age threshold, you could get a rebate up to $500 on your property taxes after they're paid. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the town manager? All right. We will move on to our agenda.
Public hearing 1 on item 2025-1-6, Public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to amend the Land Use and Development Code, Chapter 1, Section 1-1, D-8, Backlot Standards, admin sponsored.
All right, public hearing number 1 is now open. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please go to the podium. Seeing no one, the public hearing's closed.
Proposed Order 2571, ordered that the Town Council amend the Land Use and Development Code, Chapter 1, Section 1-1, D-8, Backlot Standards as follows, shown in black, bolded, underlined, and deletions are struck out. Chapter 1, Zoning Regulations, Section 1-1, General, D, Compliance Required. 8, Backlots. 1 backlot may be created from any lot of record which conforms to the lot requirements herein. D, the backlot has perpetual deeded access to a publicly accepted street or a private road. This access shall be a minimum of 30 feet in width and obtained by extension of the backlot to the public street or through provisions of an easement or ownership.
Motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What you have before you is the Town Council's version that went to the Planning Board. As the council may recall, several months ago, even maybe last year, the town allowed the use of backlots. So essentially, allowing the use of an easement or ownership to access a lot behind your lot to build a property or dwelling unit, assuming you had the frontage requirements. The town didn't require that or didn't allow that before, but what we found was that the requirements that we attempted to put in place were very cumbersome. So the main difference between your version and the planning board's version is that this version just requires a straight 30-foot easement. You could, as the parcel on the front of a property, the front of a back lot, build right up to that 30-foot easement versus the planning board's version requires a buffer onto that easement. I think the concern would be there could be instances where people could inadvertently build or go into that easement. It may be a logistical challenge at the staff level. I think it's ultimately a council decision on what you want to do with that. 30 feet does make it pretty standard across the board throughout all zones. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have staff here as well.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Counselor Sims?
Yeah, we got some input from residents as well, and I certainly appreciate the planning board's input. I do think some of the stuff they've added is overly onerous and adding expense and making it harder to make high value out of the existing lots. So I could conceivably propose a couple of amendments for us to do right now, or we could. The easier thing might be to suggest to send it back to ordinance committee once more to consider, most specifically, I think I would propose removing the 10-foot setback from the easement. I think that's, I don't see the value add there, and it's just making it more onerous for a landowner to try to utilize their existing land. So would the better thing be to just, what would the two paths be? If we send it back to ordinance committee, does it have to go to planning board again, or what would we do?
Thank you. And I think this, for a majority of the councilors, this has not come up. We've done it in the past, like when I first started. So what you have before you that you're actually voting on is your version.
Okay.
There's no obligation that you have to take the planning board's version unless there's massive differences between the two. I think that's where we would err on the side of caution. So what you actually have before you for the vote is the straight 30-foot.
I gotcha. Okay.
Another thing I guess I would comment on is if this rolls out and a year or two from now we're seeing major issues that are affecting a lot of property owners and the town, we could always go back and address it at that time.
Okay.
But right now it's relatively new.
Okay.
And I think simple may be better.
So clarify then, in the memo we have attached, page 2 of 3 at the top, chapter 1, zoning regulations, backlots, town planning board proposed adding the language, any lot of record that is legally conforming to present standards. That is something they suggested adding that we are not adding if we adopt the our
Correct.
version. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
What you're voting on is 100% within the
Very good.
agenda.
Well, all right, I would be in favor of supporting what we've got on the agenda then, our version. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Siegel?
I
I agree with what Councilor Sims said.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Public hearing 2 on item 2023 3-7, public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to amend the Land Use and Development Code, Chapter 2, Section 2-2, off-street parking standards, admin sponsored.
Public hearing number 2 is now open. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing.
Proposed Order 25-72, order that the Town Council amend the Land Use and Development Code, Chapter 2, Section 2-2, off-street parking standards as follows, shown in black, bolded, underlined, and deletions are struck out.
Council Chair.
Yep,
I would like to make a motion to waive the reading due to its length.
sure. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Siegel. All those in favor of waiving the reading due to the length? All right, 6 yeas. All right, so now we need a motion on the item itself.
So moved.
All right, motion by Counselor Siegel. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Sims. Let me just find my page here. All right. Do you want to?
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Madam Chair. I can give you a very high-level overview, and then Tom's here this evening if you have any specific questions. But you have the planning board version on this. I would say that the difference between what the general difference between what the ordinance committee sent to the planning board and what was sent back at a high level is the planning board's recommendation is more restrictive towards requiring parking standards. Would that be a fair statement, Tom? Or requiring parking? I think the council took a more liberal approach to the requirements, and they're more conservative.
Yeah, well,
Across the board.
yeah, really for the planning board, what they did is added language to clarify certain situations. So as they do project review, they understand some additional language that'd be helpful for them as they review projects. So if you look through it, you'll see they've identified the term employee. What does that mean? They identify space standards for residential projects that you can utilize garage. They went through it and added those provisions that just make it easier for a project to be reviewed. They clarified some language and did some strike through in the table just to condense it. They thought it was overly burdensome, so they removed a bunch of those provisions. So you'll see they went through it item by item and added language and made some proposed changes. One of the changes they made is they've identified as part of landscaping that if you did stormwater, LID stormwater improvements, those kind of stormwater improvements will be counted as landscaping, so you could get a double effect as part of parking. So there were a lot of things that, as they do review, that they thought made sense. So those are mostly the proposed changes regarding their recommendation.
One clarifying question, and kind of based off the approach of the last item we just did. So now it looks like the item or the language that's in the agenda is the planning board version.
Yes.
So in this case, it's different from what we just did, where
Right. So this is what we're voting on.
we're voting
as well.
on the
Yep.
planning board version. All right, cool.
And thank you. I think I can clarify. Not that frequently do we put the council's version in, but I generally have a pulse on the council as a whole.
Yeah.
And my pulse told me on the last one that it was going to create more confusion based on what the council sent to the planning board. And I think what the expectation was that we would get back. I think this one, although there are changes, it's more in lines with what we typically get back from the planning board. So the council planning board version should not come up very often.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Tom? Go ahead, Councilor Siegel.
If I were to ask you to relay the planning board's thoughts, do you think you'd be, specifically in relation to removing the elementary, middle school, and then high school and colleges, do you know why they struck that through?
They were going to rely more on engineers analysis. So they did a catch-all that says if you're not on this table here, you will meet like ITE traffic manual studies. So they thought those bigger projects, it best made better sense to look at each project for a school and then identify the parking needs associated with it. So that's why they did that.
Understood. Thank you.
Go ahead, Counselor Sims.
I have a few comments, and I do have a couple amendments that I'll be proposing, and I think I'll take them kind of one at a time. But, just at a high level, sort of the rationale here, there's a fair amount of research that I've been finding and researching, the parking requirements, clearly there's good intentions there, but a developer will put in parking if they feel that they need some amount of parking to whatever the need is, whether it's residential or commercial. Generally speaking, the minimum parking requirements, they're somewhat arbitrary, if not based on studies from other places where the parking requirements are based on the peak need, the most people driving possible, and there's just a lot of research coming out that's showing there's a lot of negative implications, a lot of negative consequences of these parking requirements, particularly concerning the town budget, because parking lots don't generate very much property tax revenue at all, and buildings generate property tax revenue. So when every building requires a parking lot that's bigger than the building, geometry works against us. So the more parking we require, the more our taxes will go up. That's just math. That's not some sort of political opinion. I'm happy to walk through the numbers with anybody who's curious about that assertion. And it might be good to have a conversation with the planning board at some point to maybe help us get a little bit more on the same page as some of our goals. So, so I've got a few, and again, we're not saying parking can't be built. All we're saying is we're not, if we reduce the minimum requirements, all we're doing is allowing the landowners to make the decision based on the free market, based on their analysis of what they think they need to build. And particularly when it comes to housing, I think we need to try to be a little more flexible there. So I'm going to propose a few amendments here. I'm just going to do them one at a time. Happy to talk through them. So the first one I would propose changing in the list is item B. That's right, in the chart on it's page 3 of the agenda. I'm sorry, page 1, 2, I guess it's page 3 of the agenda. But the full page, that's all the chart. So I would propose bringing it back to what we previously voted on, to have no parking space required for 1-bedroom units, studios, and efficiencies. And again, it's not to say somebody building a building with some of these wouldn't put in parking anyways. We're just not going to require it. Giving people the opportunity to potentially be in a place where they don't have to have a car. And the closer they are to the village, the more that's possible. The less parking we require in the village, the more that's possible. So that'd be my first proposed amendment, is to change item B, to change it from 1 parking space to no parking space required.
Okay, we'll start with that.
Yeah.
Is there a second for that amendment?
I would second that.
Okay, seconded by Counselor Willis. All right. Any more discussion on that? I think Counselor Sims explained it pretty well.
Great, thank you.
All right. No other discussion? All right. All those in favor of the amendment?
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, sorry, I was looking forward to the next one.
All right, 5 yeas. All those opposed? One, myself.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I don't want this to become too tedious. I will propose also making for item B, this is for another amendment to the next 2 sections of item B, 2 parking spaces required per unit for 2-bedroom units. I would propose reducing that to 1 parking space for 2-bedroom units. That'd be my next amendment proposed.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I was just any suggestion,
Yeah.
if there's any other amendments in section B, just do them at once.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'd propose making it one parking space required for, well, we'll leave it at 2 bedrooms. We'll leave it at that. We'll change it from 2 parking spaces for 2-bedroom units, changing that to 1. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second this.
Okay. Second by Counselor Siegel. All right. Any more discussion on changing it from 2 parking spaces per unit for 2-bedroom units to 1? Counselor LeBoy?
Yeah, I just see as, this changes things. Once you get 2 bedrooms, you get a couple of roommates, both need a vehicle to travel, or you get a single person living alone in their residence and they want company over. So to me, this kind of changes things. So I'm not in favor of this amendment.
Fair enough.
All right. Any other comments? Counselor Siegel, go ahead.
To me, I'm in favor of this just because I don't think we need to be requiring minimum parking. Like, just this, I've spoken to developers and I say, oh, you don't need to build parking. They say, oh, well, people expect it. And so like they'll, like, just, I think as Councilor Sims said, the developers will build the parking if they want to, let the market decide, rather than us deciding, as well as, if it doesn't have parking, those people won't live there. If they have 2 cars and they only get 1 space, it's not the place they're gonna move to. So that's why I'm fine with it.
Any other comments? Counselor Willis?
I would echo that. I don't believe we're going to see developers just start building big apartment buildings with 0 parking because there'll be no market for it. So they're going to make the choices that they believe need to be made to support the product that they'll be selling or leasing. And I think we can be reactive if we have one that happens and we have parking problems. As a council, we could make a change to this moving forward. So I'd be in favor of loosening those standards. Let's see what happens, then we can react in the future if we need to.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor Kush, go ahead.
And then the only comment I would add is even though it's a 2-bedroom unit, I'll support this one because of home offices.
All right. All right, all those in favor of the amendment? Counselor Kush, Counselor Willis, Counselor Sims, and Counselor Siegel? And all those opposed? Counselor LeBoy and Counselor Phillips.
I'm only going to propose one more tonight. This is my last one. Home occupation. I would propose removing that completely because presumably they've already got a parking requirement because they live there and it's a house where they already had a parking requirement. So I don't think adding another one. I mean, they've probably got a driveway. There's probably some street parking. Street parking is good. So that would be one. I don't want to deter home occupation. I want to be more supportive of home businesses. So I see that as a little bit of a not particularly business-friendly suggestion, even though probably some good intention there. So I think for a couple different reasons, I don't feel like that one's particularly necessary.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second this.
Counselor Siegel? All right, discussion on the,
Yep.
Counselor LeBoy?
So as it reads now, the explanation is 1 parking space per employee. So in this scenario, the way I'm reading it is only if you have an employee, you would need a parking spot. Is that correct?
Tom, is that correct? Because I'm thinking
Correct.
if you have your own office at your own home, you're not the employee.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Any other comments, questions? Yep.
So I was actually going to make the amendment to strike this one because I think, so one, when you look at home occupations, specifically on home lots, that's going to be existing buildings that is going to be the hardest to find additional parking for, right? Like how often do people have the ability to just carve out extra parking spaces? And then I have 2 areas of confusion, I guess. As the home occupation grows, do they then have to put more parking in?
That's a question for Tom.
Yeah, sorry, I guess that's a question to you. What would happen?
So if we did a permit for home occupation, we would permit it for the number of employees as they came in. If it became an issue where somebody, their neighbor, has identified that all of a sudden it went from 3 people parking on the road to 5, they will let us know, because I will tell you, home occupations, we get a lot of calls on, especially when they start parking on the road. I've got one right now that the code office every week gets a call complaining about parking. Every week somebody calls regarding that. Because once you go from residential to commercial, the neighbors, the only thing that, and people hate more than infill residential development, is infill commercial development. So, I think a couple things. One is, when the planning board looked at these standards, they identified these minimums because of all the provisions regarding waivers that the council did, right? So when the planning board went through that table and identified some minimums and increased those ones, because they looked at those waiver provisions that the council worked hard on to give all these waivers regarding bus access. So if we don't have standards, there's nothing to waive, right? So the planning board went to okay, here's the minimum, but if a developer shows us we don't need to do parking because of all these waiver provisions that the council put in, which the planning board thought were good, then, you know what I mean? That's why they upped those standards. So same with home occupation. If we can waive a parking standard, we're going to do that based on those standards you guys put in there. But if you already do the minimum, there's nothing really to waive at that point.
Thank you. I still, it still feels weird because we also, within our home occupation ordinance, have a, if I recall, we have preferential rules for employees that live at home. Like, we have a limit on how many employees you can have that don't live in the residence. And it also seems weird for us to then, if, for instance, you have family members that are your employees, you then have parking spaces for them. And the only other major point I have here is if you've hired people and they're not working full-time, you know, say you have 3 employees running a small retail shop over the course of 7 days, but only 1 is showing up, but you have to have 3 parking spaces. To me, yeah, this one just, it feels too, like it adds way too many questions and complications compared to some of the other ones. So, sorry, that's why I'm in favor of striking this one.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The other thing we can do, if the council does opt to strike this, to Tom's point, this issue comes up a lot, we could report back to the council in a year on instances where this applied and what is the feedback we're getting. Because it may not be even the residential neighborhood, it may be you know, people are upset just about the on-street parking and not be able to access that business. I used to get that a lot in a former municipality. It was, they were using public spaces that people couldn't take advantage of. But I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all here, and we could come back with data later to see how this is impacting neighbors and so on and so forth.
That's a great suggestion. I'd love to see that. And just a couple items in response. Fair points. And again, I know these are all proposed with best interests. I just think having to go get the waiver, that's more time, more uncertainty for the developer. So just they're that much less likely to even bother with it at all. So I hear it that some folks complain. I want to make sure we're tracking those complaints and trying to address them as best we can. I'm guessing that a lot of those folks complaining about that stuff are probably also not psyched about their taxes going up. I just want to make clear, everything I'm proposing here, the reason I'm proposing it is to better improve our property tax situation, because the more parking requirements we require, the less net positive tax revenue we're going to be generating on each parcel. So that's what's driving all of this. So again, for that, I'd propose, there's some great points Councilor Siegel made, so I just propose that we go ahead and strike that item S for the home occupation requiring a parking space per employee. I just strike that completely.
All right. I'm actually going to agree on this one because I don't think this one is necessary, but go ahead, Councilor Willis.
No, I was going to say I'm going to support it, but I appreciate the town manager's note about following this over the course of the next year, that I think that's really important. That this one gives me a little bit of angst because I think businesses, even home occupations, will make decisions that are good for the business. And so I think we need to follow that and how it's impacting some of the citizens that live right in the area. So.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment? 6 yeas. All right. Any more discussion on the item?
I have,
Go ahead, Councilor
I have an
Siegel.
amendment here. On item number 7 here. So we initially were talking about 1,350 feet, which is a quarter of a mile. And it seems like it was lowered to 1,000 feet. So 1,350 feet was chosen very specifically because that is the same number that we use for our pedestrian overlay. And it's kind of been the default of just quarter of a mile. So it was the idea here is to have the same numbers across the board rather than saying, oh, you have to build sidewalks if you're within this, but oh, you don't get the reduction because you're 1,200 feet away. So just kind of having everything at that quarter of a mile for ease. And so I would like to make the amendment that we bring it back to 1,350 feet.
All right, do you have any comments? You look like you were going to say something. Okay. All right, is there a second? Okay. Councilor Sims, second the item. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think the only, everything that was said was correct. I think maybe from the planning board's perspective, and I don't know if this was the angle, but this is essentially non-residential or mixed-use developments. So it's more of a commercial review. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, but I think it was, my recollection is every place else we say 1,000. Why then in that one provision did we say 1,350? So the planning board was just saying, let's standardize it to 1,000. If that's what we had throughout this whole ordinance is 1,000, the planning board said, keep it 1,000. Okay. So they were just trying to keep it consistent throughout. If you look at it, all the other waivers are 1,000. So I think that's why they moved it to 1,000.
That's fair enough, but I think I'd prefer to propose changing each one to 1350.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to move one, you move them all to standardize it.
Do you want to do that?
Can I amend my amendment?
Yes, as long as Councilor Sims agrees to your change.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to amend the amendment to change all of the 1,000 feet in here to 1,350 to align it with our pedestrian overlay.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm seeing the references 5A,
Yep.
5B, 5E1,
Yep.
and 5-7. Or I'm sorry, no, not 5-7, just 7. The one we started with. Yeah. So I'll second that.
All right.
Did I catch them all, Tom?
I believe so. That's what I had.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on changing all of the distances to 1,350 feet? All right, all those in favor? 5 yeas, 1 opposed. All right, are we done amending the item? Okay.
I don't have an amendment.
Okay,
but I have
no, you can talk.
I just have a question for Tom. Why use fractional numbers?
So it always rounds up. So you use the fractional numbers more to drive it to less, right? So if you do fractional numbers, you're still lessening the parking, it's just to a less extent. So that's why 2.5, if you did a big development like 15 units, you would do less than if you did 3 units, right? So that's why it was a fractional number. We always round up, and you'll see the planning board said any fraction numbers would be rounded up to the next whole number.
I noted that, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah. So that's why we're trying to reduce the parking requirement as best we can, but still keep something that seemed to be reasonable.
Okay, and all the 250 and 1,000 in terms of square foot for some of the business stuff, does that come from somewhere, or is 250 sort of an arbitrary number?
Some of those numbers came from other ordinances. Like if you look, I think most of the parking ordinances throughout Southern Maine came from one area, whether that was GP Cog like 30 or 40 years ago, but there seems to be a standard number that people use to just have as a basic number that you can then ground truth and then give other provisions to amend that. So that's typically where it comes from.
I would just echo Councillor Sims' point earlier that I think this parking issue might be something worthwhile, maybe a joint workshop in the future with planning and just understanding how some of these numbers impact the village and businesses and residents all throughout the town. So if there's some arbitrary numbers in there that should be looked at that were from 30 or 40 years ago, maybe we should look at them again and kind of all get on the same page.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Does everyone understand all the amendments? Okay. I'm not going to make Jess read or explain those, I think, as long as we're good. All right, so I guess this is, to me, similar to the sidewalk ordinance and requirements. So I think less is more in that case, and I think that's in this case as well. So a lot of this is still too restrictive for me, so I'll be a no. But, all right. Everyone ready to vote?
Chair, would you like to make some amendments to remove some restrictions?
No, we'd be here all night.
We'll be here all night. Yeah, it might be worth another motion for the ordinance committee to take another look. Or
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense for it to be ordinance committee. It could even be the capital
Yeah,
improvements.
I agree with what Councilor Willis said, that we should just probably take a look at this, but piece by piece, I mean, that's fine. So, all right. All those in favor? 5 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, public hearing number 3 on item 2025-6-12, public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to amend the Land Use and Development Code, Mosier Corner Mixed Use District revisions to dimensional standards for mixed-use developments, admin sponsored. Proposed order 25, oops, I'm sorry.
Public hearing.
Yes.
I have to open it. Yep. Public hearing number 3 is now open. If anyone wants to speak on this item, come to the podium. No one. The public hearing is closed.
Proposed order 25-73, ordered that the town council amend the Land Use and Development Code, Mosier Corner Mixed Use District revisions to dimensional standards for mixed-use developments as follows. Shown in black, bolded, underlined, and deleted or struck out. Chapter 1, Zoning Regulations, Section 1-13, Mosier Corner Mixed Use Space Standards. 1, residential uses and mixed uses. Minimum lot size, sewered is 20,000 square feet, unsewered is 40,000 square feet. Minimum area per dwelling unit, 20,000 square feet, sewered, 40,000 square feet, unsewered. Street frontage, 100 feet, street frontage, front setbacks, MDOT numbered routes are 100 feet sewered and 150 unsewered. Local roads, I'm reading across this wrong, aren't I?
Don't worry about it, just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbered routes.
Numbered
Yep.
routes, 80 feet, sewered, unsewered 80 feet. Local roads is being amended to 15 feet sewered and 25 feet unsewered, and the side and rear setbacks, 15 feet sewered and 15 feet unsewered. As part of this order, a new zoning map will be adopted.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, is there a second? Second by Councilor Sims. All right, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Essentially, what this does is correct an issue where it reverses the setbacks on sewered versus unsewered. This has been the planning board. It was a very simple tweak. At the staff level, we are recommending that you amend this item to reduce the front setbacks on an MDOT road from 80 feet for both to 50 feet. And what this does is basically bring that setback into alignment with that whole district. Everything else around it's 50 feet, and then this district has a greater setback than everything else by at least 30 feet. Thank you.
Councilor LaVoy?
Council Chair, I would like to make that amendment.
Okay, so the amendment is to change 80 feet on both sewered and unsewered
To 50.
to 50. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Second by Councilor Willis. Any more discussion on that piece? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas. Huh? Oh, now we need to vote on the item as amended. All those in favor? 6 yeas. Thank you.
Item 2025-7-1, action to consider setting a workshop for September 16th, 2025 to discuss residential sprinkler system requirements. Councillor Sims sponsored. Proposed Order 25-74, order that the Town Council set September 16th, 2025 as a workshop date to discuss residential sprinkler system requirements in the town of Gorham.
Is there a motion? Moved by Councillor Sims. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Lavoy.
Yeah, do you want to go first?
I defer to the counselor.
Fair enough. I just, proposed this. This is something that's come up a lot. A lot of people in the town have brought this to my attention. Obviously there's a good intention here, of course. We all care about fire safety. There's the competing interest here is there's a very large cost associated with this, and our housing costs are already too high for many of our residents, and certainly many of those who would like to live here. And so it really is, we got to try to just find ways to be as, cost effective as possible. I think what the main things I'd like to come out of this workshop are for us to get a full understanding, and this is something I need a full understanding on. A, what are the state and federal standards that exist, regardless of whether Gorham has a town level ordinance at all? Then B, why do we feel that Gorham needs a local ordinance beyond state and federal standards? And then finally, C, what are there other additional specific revisions that town staff have in mind based on the input they've been receiving, with, again, the goal here being trying to minimize the costly burdens for new housing development, while at the same time, doing everything we can to ensure fire safety. And of course there are other mitigations beyond just sprinkler systems. So that's something I don't claim to be an expert here. I know others are, and I want to just continue to educate ourselves so we can try to continue to hone this thing while also being responsive to the housing affordability crisis that we've got.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Kush?
I feel like I've lost track of what workshops we have and when they might be. And I know the school committee kind of does a whole calendar year, which is way too ambitious for me. But can anyone remind me, do we have a July? Do we have an August? Do we have consensus with the town manager that this is something we should take up in September?
So we don't have anything for July, but that would be too quick. I did discuss that with the town manager. That would be too quick to get the information prepared for all the multi things we're going to talk about that involve the sprinkler ordinance. But you can speak to the rest of it.
Well, thank you. August, the council has a workshop on smart growth. That's when that was set more than a couple months ago now for August. And July, I think we would be rushing the product to get all of the experts in the room. And what I'm hoping comes out of the workshop is just what Councilor Sims said, that if the council wants to make tweaks or substantial changes to the ordinance, what are those impacts in public safety for our folks? And then, do we require something else to mitigate costs down the road for the town would be something I'd be concerned about. Whether it's, fire pond, not fire ponds, cisterns, stuff like that for larger developments.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Siegel, go ahead.
And I guess through to the town manager, it sounds like this will be in it, but understanding what, if any, state preemption has occurred. I've seen a lot of various bills coming out, and I'm not sure what has gone through and not. So just knowing, what has happened.
We can get that. I think it mostly applies to ADUs, okay. But we'll research that and bring it back to the council.
Great. Comments, questions? I'm going to support this because I'm probably the only councillor that was here that when the sprinkler ordinance was put in, and I was a no. So thank you for bringing this up. And there are a lot of pieces to look at. So it'll be a good discussion. So thank you. All right. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025-7-2, action to consider form-based codes in parts of the Gorham Village districts. Councilor Siegel sponsored. Proposed Order 25-75, ordered that the Town Council forwards to the Ordinance Committee for review and recommendation amendments to the Land Use and Development Code that would permit form-based codes in all or parts of the Gorham's Village districts.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yep. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Sims. Counselor Siegel?
Thank you. So we've consistently talked about ways that we can make it easier for businesses and just kind of make the whole bureaucratic process easier. And throughout, I'm coming up on close to 3 years on the council now, the words form-based code keep coming up. And what that means in short is that we as a town develop plans that we all agree are what we want to see in Gorham. And it could be we work with consultants, work with contractors to build these plans, and if a developer comes to us with those plans, they can go straight to a building permit. They don't need to go through the planning board process. We can cut out months of time, and we know that the end result's going to be something we like. There have been multiple times where us as a council, we pull up Google Maps Street View and look at some of the buildings, and we say, like, oh, this was really good. How can we make sure that, this is also what we get? And so this is a way that we can make the bureaucratic process easier, can make sure that we get the building types, the building character that we're looking for in Gorham, and kind of start by focusing it on, I wrote parts of the Gorham Village districts, which really include we're calling the small dwelling overlay, which is kind of, so if we just say the village, that's like 2 blocks technically on our zoning. And so we've kind of been using the small dwelling overlay as a stand-in for what people actually consider the village to be. But this would be a process that I'd want, definitely it would be a slow-moving process as ordinance, and I'd want the whole council's involvement in so that by the end of it, we actually all feel good about it. Yeah.
Just a clarifying question. So you just mean just in the Gorham Village districts, like in the village, not the other villages or any?
I'm okay with any changes to make this larger, but I was encouraged to keep it to, as small an area as I could to begin with.
Okay. You look like you had something you wanted to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In full disclosure, I think you're all aware, or hopefully up to speed in general on form-based codes. It is, for Maine, there are some municipalities that have done it, very different than what you're used to. That being said, there's a little bit of upfront costs. We'd have to hire a consultant. We dabbled in looking at this, I don't know, 2 years ago? Seems like longer. But we dabbled in this at different districts in the town. We have had some conversations with a developer that does some phenomenal development in Gorham and other communities. So there may be areas in the whole village or parts of the village that you could run a test case on to see if this will work and take advantage of the willingness of developers that want to invest in the community to invest in, again, what the community wants to see. But essentially, if it meets all the check boxes of what you're looking for, yes, it gets a building permit, and short of DEP approval, it's off to the races at that point. So you kind of bypass the planning board. That's why it's just dramatically different.
Yeah, and I'd be supportive of, at the very least, just moving this conversation forward to the ordinance committee. I think that's a sensible thing to do. Not to belabor the conversation tonight, but places where I've seen it work effectively, to your point, it's quite a different approach from the existing set of codes and standards, where I've seen it applied effectively. The form-based, the pre-approved form-based code options are presented as an optional path that a developer can choose to take. if they want to. And the benefit of it is they have far less, they have far more certainty about a much quicker process, and they know what they need to build to be able to move forward. So it saves time and money, which also helps bring down the cost of the housing. So I think that's a nice flexible approach there. We're not completely throwing out the old. We're just going to add this alternative path as another option to have on the table. I think that's a way I've seen employed effectively.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Kush?
I have a question, and I'm not for the town manager, I guess. Is this anything that we would looking at a new town plan process, or is this something totally extraneous?
So let's see if I understand the question. You're not referring to comprehensive plan. You're just talking about the process, correct?
The process of, I know that we've been putting together smaller plan or financing smaller plans to get ready for that.
My understanding is that the form-based code, generally speaking, needs to follow the town's comprehensive plan and those studies. But I guess the benefit of form-based code is if let's just say it's commercial business or mixed use, if it meets all of the requirements on what it looks like, the footprint, the character, checks all the boxes, it just gets approved. At the staff level, we just go down the checklist and they're like, yep, okay, this looks just like the building in the village that we envisioned. Doesn't matter what's in it, you build it. But that needs to be consistent in theory with commercial, residential uses in the comp plan. So it should follow along that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025-7-3, action to consider banning certain pesticides from use on municipal properties. Councilor Siegel sponsored. Proposed order 25-76, order that the town council forwards to the ordinance committee for review and recommendation from staff, including the Gorham School Department, creating a standalone ordinance or policy that would ban or modify the use of harmful pesticides from use on municipal facilities.
There a motion?
So moved.
All right, is there a second? Second by Councilor Sims. All right,
I can
I was gonna say,
take this as
whoever
well.
wants to talk about this.
So this was brought to me by a few constituents over the past few months. The idea here is, Scarborough already has a policy in place for doing just this. So looking at that, working with town staff to understand what the difficulties might be with it, and making sure that what is being suggested will not be overly burdensome on town staff, but will also ensure the health and well-being of everyone using our fields and various public places. I just hope that our recreation director and public works director will be willing to give their opinion. I just. All right, great.
I don't think that's a problem. All right, so I have one question for the town manager, and you may not know the exact answer, but I'm just curious because I think this came up probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and someone brought that to our attention, and it actually was not us. It was along like some mountain division trailers and different things like that. So I thought we a little bit took a look at this. I just wasn't sure how much we actually do use pesticides. I don't know if you know the answer, but.
Thank you. I think I have a general understanding. So we are not licensed, or we may have the staff that are licensed to do it, but my understanding is we do not apply it ourselves. That being said, probably the place that we do apply it would be our fields. So fields are treated, they're treated for grubs, other infestations. But I don't think there's harm in having a conversation and at the very least we could put an internal policy in place, even if the council opts not to do an ordinance after this conversation, of this is, what our third party is treating the fields with. It's available for public viewing. You call Public Works, you can find out what your kids are playing on. But we do use licensed contractors. They follow state, regulations on that. But I think for the most part, that's the only place that we apply. We do get requests quite a bit about tick control. I think that's more on the trails. That would probably be the next common complaint. And the state has from time to time sprayed on the Mountain Division Trail, I think more for the vegetation. But that's beyond our control.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Willis?
No, I would just say I'll support the conversation. I don't know what I'll support when it comes back in the future, but I think transparency and keeping kids and all users safe is important. So I think that's okay to continue to talk about, but where the ordinance goes, we'll follow, and my vote may change in the future.
Any other comments, questions? Councilor Kush, go ahead.
I'd just like to say I think this is a perfect opportunity to involve our health council.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025-7-4, action to release some of the Little Falls light savings for construction of a batting cage. Councilor Gagnon sponsored. Proposed order 25-77, ordered that the town council authorizes to release up to $10,000 Gorham Little League to construct and purchase materials for batting cage. Town manager to work with Gorham Little League for construction and/or reimbursement.
Is there a motion? I would.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? I'll second the item, just for discussion. To be fair to the request from Little League, and Councilor Gagnon's not here, so. Town manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My understanding of the order is it would just release up to $10,000. I think as far as the site's concerned, we could work with everybody involved if the council opts to fund the purchase, and if there's drawn a blank here. We may have to look at the site plan if it's a permanent structure. If we're talking a semi-permanent structure, it may just be a seasonal item that doesn't have to amend the site plan. But whatever the council opts to do, we were happy to help, and I believe that there should be the funding remaining from the project. It's they set the bases and the conduit, I think, in the last 2 weeks, and the poles should be going up fairly soon. So I still don't know what the end bill is going to be, if there's going to be unknowns, but we should have that amount available.
Councilor LaVoy?
Yeah, I don't like voting on something and then spending the money on something else or shifting it. So I would propose an amendment to the order to say release up to $10,000 of any expected remaining balance to construct the batting cages.
Remaining balance.
Could I just, do we need to second that right away? Or
Yeah, we need
okay.
a second before we can discuss it. Is
Fair
there a
enough.
second for that?
I'll second the
Okay.
discussion of it. Yeah.
Councilor Sims?
My only one point to just consider, an alternative option might just be, we could just table it until we actually know what the savings are. It's already June, today's July, right? So, the season's already kind of going, presumably. So it's probably for next season, I would imagine anyways. So maybe we table it for a month until we have a better sense of what the actual cost was and how much we have left. Would that make any sense?
Thank you. I think the council has full latitude, whatever you want to do. I would be fairly confident there would be $10,000 left. I say fairly confident. The amendment would address it, that it's of a remaining balance, so the money would have to be there
I see.
to fund it.
Okay.
Yeah, my thing is, I don't want to shift. We voted on this already.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go towards lights.
Yeah.
So my thing is to make it clear in the agenda here, that if there's money remaining, we can put it toward batting cages.
Yep.
If there's no money remaining, they're not getting batting cages.
Right. Counselor Kush, go ahead.
So $10,000 for the Little League, is that the best bang for the buck, to be quoting my town manager? The bang for the buck part. I guess I have a problem with suddenly having money left over and putting it to a batting cage. I'd rather see a list of items like back when we did ARPA funding and look at it in other ways.
So I can clarify that a little bit because I went to the Little League closing ceremonies and spoke about the dedication of the Horace Wilson Field. I did speak to the current, now not current, Little League president about this item, and it was kind of a request that he made. They are also fundraising. I think that's where they kind of wanted to know. I don't know that their full ask is going to be this much. I think they're doing some fundraising before the season starts, is my understanding towards this. So I don't know, it's definitely not going to be any more money than that, I guess. So that, there could be an occasion for that too. So it was just a request. And it was talked about when we had this, actually, when we did the master plan for that area, we did talk about an area for batting cages, and we never put that in there in the plan, so. But if people want to table it and we want to wait, and it's up to the council, so go ahead.
Just to clarify what you just said, when you say their full ask is not going to be just $10,000,
No,
you mean,
they're
but of the
gonna-
council, they're asking for $10,000 from this, and they'll be raising money from other places to make up the total cost?
But I think that the total cost is $10,000. So they may, you know what I mean? So he's not on the board anymore, so he was kind of, if they do some fundraising, then it could reduce their ask, but.
I would second Councillor Sims' amendment to table this item for now. I think if we're looking at the calendar of Little League, and somebody in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, they are currently in All-Stars, and so the season is winding down, and I think this might be a good time to see where we end up, see what the cost is going to be, see what the actual ask is, so that we know what we're approving when we approve it, instead of just approving some
Yep.
arbitrary number again.
No, I would agree. And like I said, outgoing, ingoing, president, so that's why the request was made at the time that it was, so.
Yeah, I have no problem finishing off that to create a batting cage, but I just want to know all the numbers that are involved when we do it.
I'm happy to go with that plan, so I will remove my amendment if I can.
Okay. Are you happy with removing it because you seconded it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We could always conceivably add it back if we want to.
So if I can understand, if I recall, this project was initially $200,000 of ARPA funding and then an extra $300,000 of capital part 2.
It's 250, I think.
I'm sorry, I think I put it in my notes.
We did too.
I believe the total project allocation was $560,000 with 300 of capital part 2, and the balance was ARPA originally.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
360 or 565,000.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about we've already given to this one sport for one age group $500,000 for lights, and then we've saved a little bit of money, but now we're talking about, let's give them an extra tenth at we had a counselor call a $5,000 donation to GP NEMBA a pet project, and here we are, this is over $500,000, and we're talking about, we've come a little under, let's figure out a way to give them, this feels so imbalanced to every other organization in town, to every other, even our road budget, right? This is $500,000. So it's just, it feels, I'm against this because this feels like it's just not proper fiscal management of the town.
All right, I have comments about the lighting project, but since that's not on the agenda, I won't make them. All right. Councilor LaVoy? Councilor Sims, anybody making an amendment to?
I was just going to say, you have a motion on the original item.
Right.
I think we've made a motion to table it
Okay, that's what I want to make
until
sure
we,
that there
until
was.
we
Okay,
actually
yep.
have the numbers.
Okay, so that was your motion.
That's my motion.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second to tabling it?
I would second that.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of tabling it? 4, 5 yeas. All those opposed? 1. Councilor Siegel.
Item 2025-7-5, action to authorize the town manager to enter into a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Gorham Teamsters Local 340, admin sponsored. Proposed order 25-78, order that the town manager is authorized to enter into a new 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Teamsters Local 340 beginning July 1, 2024.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Councilor Sims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very happy to have this before the town council. I want to thank the members of the local for their work. We had a turnover in the negotiation team. This has been a while, as you can tell from the date, but I want to get it executed and the appropriate pay increases and other benefits offered to the employees. So thank you to them, and thank you for the council for taking it up. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I know it says it in our notes, but I would just say it for the public that this has all been taken into account into the budget that was approved a couple months ago.
I guess, and I have a question. How are we doing with hiring people?
It's a tough market. I'm sure this will help because we have to go under the rates of the contract. So this will hopefully be a boost, but it's a rough market. The council added 4 new positions in this year's budget. Those started or were effective July. I don't think we've filled those, and I think we were down to begin with. So this is a tough market. Hopefully this will help.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025-7-6, action to go into executive session for personnel and economic development matters, admin sponsored. Proposed order 25-79, order that the town council enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056A personnel matters and 1 MRSA subsection 4056C for discussion or consideration of the condition, acquisition, or the use of real or personal property permanently attached to real property or interest therein, or disposition of publicly held property or economic development only if premature disclosures of the information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the body or agency.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
By Councilor Kush. All right, and just so everybody knows that we will not be coming back on camera because we have nothing to vote on when we come out of executive session. All those in favor? 6 yeas. Thank you.